New at 5:30, Kern County may have condemned an innocent man to die.
Let me say that again. A Kern County jury may have sent an innocent man to death row, where he has been for 26 years now, for a crime he didn't commit. That possibility is now being considered by the California Supreme Court after state prosecutors admitted, quote, false evidence was used to win the conviction. 17's Olivia Lavoie spent the last month examining this case. She's the only reporter anywhere working on this story, and she has this exclusive report. Olivia?
Jim, no one knows what the court will decide, but if the questions by the justices and oral arguments are any indication, there are grave concerns that a man may have been wrongfully convicted and sent to death row. The court might be preparing to set him free. Now, we want to warn you, some of the content in this story will be disturbing to some viewers.
The people who live here in this apartment complex say they're shocked to find out what happened.
3 months before her second birthday, Consuelo Verdugo suffered major internal trauma to her body. She spent 8 days in 3 hospitals, treated by a dozen doctors. The question that needed to be answered, how did this little girl die?
It was here in this quiet Delano apartment complex that the most brutal child abuse case in the city's history took place.
It is difficult to believe that someone would do this to another human being.
The man accused of killing the child, 42-year-old Vicente Benavides. Prosecutors told a jury that back in November 1991, Benavides was babysitting his live-in girlfriend's 2 daughters, a 9-year-old and 21-month-old Consuelo. The day turned tragic when Benavides said he found her outside, struggling to stay conscious. The only visible sign of injury was a bruise to her forehead. Doctors at Delano Regional Medical Center realized the baby had internal bleeding. She was transferred to KMC. KMC doctors determined the toddler had trauma to her genitalia and rectum. She was taken to UCLA, where she died. During the autopsy, it was determined Consuelo died in a horrific manner. She was raped, causing severe internal damage. Vicente Benavides, a quiet farm laborer from Mexico with no criminal record, was charged with first-degree murder in the course of rape.
Does it matter, really?
The prosecution's medical experts, including KMC's Dr. Jess Diamond, stated the girl had been sexually assaulted. On the other side of the courtroom, the defense said the girl was possibly hit by a car, but there was little physical evidence to support that theory.
Within the span of 15 minutes that the child had been left in his care, this damage occurred to the child.
Yeah, it challenged a lot of my religious faith big time.
Gordon Jones was a juror.
I just couldn't, in my mind, fathom someone killing, and in the fashion they did, a baby like that.
We, the jury,
He is the lowest form of human life.
the murder of Consuelo Verdugo
Then I'm certainly not going to change what I call him.
was committed by the defendant Vicente Figueroa Benavides
Child rapist killer.
while the said defendant was engaged in the commission or attempted commission of rape.
He should be put to death for his crimes.
She had a lot of trauma and died from trauma, all inflicted within 15 minutes of time at the very least.
Each juror voted for death, except for one.
The last holdout was me for the death penalty.
The jury foreman had a request.
He asked the bailiff to have the judge to send in the pictures of that little girl again. They circulated those. And then he said, if that doesn't call for a death penalty, what does?
This is where this case takes a big turn. 9 years ago, one of the prosecution's expert witnesses made a startling discovery. According to this declaration, Dr. Jess Diamond says in 2009, he was able to review all of Consuelo's medical records that weren't provided to him in 1991 or 1993. Diamond says after reviewing all of the medical records for the first time, he no longer believes the child was sexually assaulted. Furthermore, he says the cause of death determined by the pathologist is medically impossible.
That's the extent of my knowledge, Counsel.
And this habeas corpus petition says the initial medical staff did not observe any trauma to the girl's genitalia, supporting claims the injuries were inadvertently inflicted during medical procedures at the second or third hospital. With these revelations, even the state attorney general's office acknowledges the allegations of sexual abuse are now classified as false evidence.
That's unbelievable.
Jones took his time to read over the documents. As I explained, what makes this case significant is it's not just the defense saying that there was error in the prosecution's case. It's the Attorney General's office as well.
And that opens up quite a door. You can't believe anything that's said there.
The false evidence permeated the entire trial proceedings.
For no discernible reason, the DA's theory is he decides to, or currently the people's theory is, he decides to batter this child with such force as to inflict these injuries. There are a few gaps in that testimony.
It was so galvanizing and horrible. That's the problem. It's not just the duality, the dueling of the experts. It was this bomb that was dropped on the jury. They couldn't hear or see anything else after that.
But when you're sitting there and you're presented with this, and the professionals, the physicians, that's a good question for the state attorney general to have a look at. Then somebody needs to be in court, and it isn't Mr. Buenavides.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, we hope to get it right the first time, and certainly, everyone, this was a painful case for everyone.
A key witness who helped send a man to death row admits he didn't get it right the first time.
The physical difference in size.
Most of what I learned about prosecuting child molest or other sexual assault cases came from Dr. Diamond.
Dr. Diamond's change of opinion has sent a shockwave throughout this case.
Dr. Diamond was present at the autopsy. I'm not sure how to say it. Opinions 20 years later that don't seem to make sense given the jury's verdict. It's troubling. We still have a dead child here that there's no one really speaking for.
All this time, this has went by. I even dreamt a lot about that trial. And we come down to this. And how are they going to hold another trial based on what? If they had no trial to begin with, based on what? This is like unbelievable.
Both sides agree the autopsy is wrong, but what really happened to the little girl in those 15 minutes that caused her such severe internal damage? Dr. Diamond, who says he was very troubled by this case and his findings, consulted an expert with no ties to either the prosecution or defense to review the case.
I mean, Dr. Hager's work, speaks for itself. I mean, she is the preeminent expert in the Western United States.
The findings by Dr. Astrid Hager, widely acclaimed as one of the top experts in the child abuse field, reveal that she not only believes Consuelo was not sexually assaulted, she also says she doesn't believe the child was physically abused either, saying the extent and severity of organ damage and injury to Consuelo's chest are far more consistent with having been run over by an automobile than having been hit, kicked, or squeezed by a person. Hager goes on to say, given my review of the evidence, I am convinced this is the most egregious case of mistaken allegations of sexual and physical abuse that I have encountered in over 2.5 decades of working in the field of child abuse. Tragically for Consuelo's family, her death is more a mystery now than the day she died. Dr. Jess Diamond is now 100 years old, and his failing memory prevented him from speaking directly to this case. Ed Jagels, the district attorney at the time, didn't return calls for this story. Current District Attorney Lisa Green says if the Supreme Court overturns the conviction, the case would likely be too difficult to retry. Attorneys on both sides declined interviews due to the pending legal decision. Consuelo's family members declined to comment. Vicente Benavides, now 68, continues to sit on death row, still denying he killed Consuelo. The state Supreme Court has until April 3rd to make its decision. Justices could send the case back to Bakersfield for a retrial, or they could find that Benavides is guilty of the lesser crime of second-degree murder, or they could let the conviction stand. If you'd like to learn more about this case, you can go to our website. We've got all the critical documents posted there, as well as extended interviews from the key players and a list of Kern County inmates on death row. If you have any questions, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. For now, Olivia LaVoice, 17 News.